All right, we're getting started, and we should be on our platform, and also you guys in Zoom as well. Thank you guys for attending, and we are doing our initiative and leadership workshop. And if you guys have any questions, Zach, you'd be monitoring the screen. If we have any questions, you let me know. Can you hear me? If you'd be monitoring the screens in the Facebook or the Zoom, if we have any questions or like that, let me know. Thank you guys for attending. We're doing our initiative and leadership workshop. And the truth is, you're here because you want more, you desire more, and you want to achieve more. You wouldn't be here unless you wanted to develop yourself beyond where you're at. And developing yourself is the key to success. And I began to develop myself because I knew that there was more. And I knew that I had seen other people achieve more. But what I wanted to understand is what made people successful from others that were not successful. What were they doing? How were they doing it? And what habits did they have? And how did they get there? And the thing about it is everyone that I was around really didn't know how to go there. And I started to notice this common reoccurrence that everybody around me was more or less earning the amount of same of revenue that I earned. And I would look at my outer ring, and I would look at the people that I was around, and I would notice that they more or less earned the same. I also learned that a lot of them lived more or less in the same city block. I noticed that a lot of them even would purchase the same things. So when we're looking at the physical world, what we're looking at is people, places, products, circumstances. They all had different desires, but the vehicles were more or less the same according to what they would do. According to what they do. And I kept noticing a real recurring common thing is that everything is always and always will be in equal proportion to the way you think. And if thinking is the highest thing, why wouldn't we continue to develop our thinking? And here I would go around and I would research other people or look at their relationships, and they attracted them. They attracted the vehicle. They attracted the things that they put in the home. They attracted the home. They attracted their friendships, even their co-workers, and the amount of money they earned. I kept noticing the common reoccurrence that everything was based on the way they think. And each one of them had their own bias on why they were doing what they were doing, why they were not doing what they're doing, why they were getting the results they're getting. And it all went back to the way we think. Now, when we say this word mind, we're going to take you through this process of understanding what the mind is. The mind is a movement, but we rarely understand what the mind is. We rarely research what is the mind. And we're going to go through this process, and a lot of you may know us by now, and if you don't, we're an Institute of the Mind. We research the mind. We research consciousness, we research quantum mechanics, physics, neurosciences. We are in all of everything to do with this thing called life, intelligence, and consciousness. And we are all about this and really entangled in it because we are in the personal development field and this is about developing yourself. The self. Why? Because the only thing we could ever do is go beyond who we are. And as I started to look towards the self and what is the self, I knew that we were so much more. My desire always wanted to take me beyond where I was at. But there was always something that would cause me to think, well, is it possible? There was something inside always reoccurring that would cause me to go back inside myself and wonder what is really possible. There was always something in me causing me to wonder, doubt, worry, fear, question. Now, this image here is a sick person, and we're going to use it all through this leadership training and teaching you about the physical reality. But in order for you to understand the physical reality, we've got to understand the unseen part of your personality, and that is the mind, consciousness. We have a conscious mind, and we have a subconscious mind. And there are really more parts to this matter, but we're going to really just talk about these two aspects and then the body. The body is the instrument of the mind. The body represents the instrument from which we move through. We move through time. Now, I kept thinking, why is it that other people, every now and then I would find somebody that was really doing something big, but they were rare, and I would rarely find them around. Why is it that those top performers, there's very few, top performer, and when I really started to research top performers and how much they earn, the really top performers were normally earning $300K up. And it's rare that I found anybody who was earning $300K and above. 500, a million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million. But everywhere else, I would find everybody average 40,000, 60,000, 70,000, 80 to 100 is a little above the normal. But it was rare that you actually found somebody doing 300K or more. And I started to wonder, well, what is it that they're doing that's so different that sets them apart? Where is the individual that's earning 500? Where is the individual that's earning $1 million? And how come you rarely find these people? But when I would look around at my environment, and I looked around at my family's environment when we grew up, and I grew up in a family that was in the poverty range, and always barely making it. Barely making enough, barely earning enough. And I remember seeing my environment and seeing that the outer ring that I lived in that time, and that outer ring was with people that wanted more, but could never afford more. They earned a certain amount of money, but could rarely get past it. And everybody was more or less in the same city block earning the same amount of money, and more or less the same jobs to earn the same amount of revenue. So then here we have the same jobs, or job requirements, or job practices, or job habits. And it was Hubbard that said, from which class do you belong? From which class do you belong? What was he saying? Well, as I started to research this outer ring and consciousness, I'm a little child, and I'm looking at my outer ring. That means the environment I'm growing into. I'm searching for ideas, and when I start to look, I see that everybody is always equal in proportion to the way they think. The man that says he can and the man that says he cannot are both right. And I would always find their reason why it couldn't be done. Or I would always find the reason why they couldn't earn more. I was always kind of find the reason. Every time I would ask, I would find the reasons, the why. But it was always something outside of them. But what is causing the reason that's happening outside? And I would wonder, there's got to be more to this whenever I see other people earning 30,000, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, 100,000, 200,000, there's got to be something more to this aspect. And every time I would hear the environment talk to me, it would give me other reasons why it couldn't be done. Now, here I'm going into, it's time for me to leave mom and dad's house. It's time for me to go into the physical world. So I leave mom and dad's house. It's my turn to earn money. The minute it's your turn to earn money, your body needs to go take action. Now, when I started to think, how am I going to earn money? I began to think. The process called thinking is truly imagining. And as I began to imagine, I went into what I knew. And as I went into what I knew, I went back to my memories. And where were my memories from? My environment. So I went back to think about what's possible. What am I going to do? How am I going to earn? When I started to think about this dollar sign, the dollar sign came to me because I wanted to leave mom and dad's reality. It's time for me to earn. So what's the thing that causes everybody to go take initiative and leadership? What happens at 15, 14, 15, 16, 17, depending on the child? What happens? That's right. Very good. We have to earn money. You want to leave the outer ring and you want to create your own reality. It's time for you to earn money. Why? Because money pays for the outer ring of your life. What is the outer ring? Let's go back to it. The amount of money earned dictates the house you buy or don't buy, or you rent. The amount of money you earn dictates what you purchase or put in the house. The money you earn dictates whether you have a car, you don't have a car, or you take the bus. You still, if you want to ride, or if you want a scooter, electric scooter, you still got to pay for those, right? So the amount of money you earn dictates everything that's physical. Why? Because everything that's physical, you have to pay for it. Right? So many people don't understand. They don't understand the mind. They don't know consciousness. They never researched it. But what's the one thing that causes every human on the planet, to begin to take action and use their imagination? To act. Money. What has moved everybody into action all over the world? Money. Does it not? Everyone around the world. And they don't even know what's moving them. Look at every city block. Look at every person around the world. Everybody begins to think, and they have to move into action because they have to survive. Because they want to experience a physical reality. Now, there's two ways to live. You can live in nature or you can live in the city. In nature, you don't need money. Right? I want to live in the city too. But in nature, there's two ways to live. You either live in the economical world that has, through the process, learned how to develop mechanisms to make things easier for us. They built the toilet. They built the water that goes to the toilet. They built the water that goes to the home. They built the electricity that goes to the home. Evolution of what? The mind and consciousness has developed the resources so that everything's more at ease for the individual. If you don't want to live in the economical world, you don't need money, but you've got to still use your imagination immediately. Two things make an imagination take off, just like that. Survival. Survival. Survival, if you don't want to live in the economic world, you don't need the money. But you still need to survive. So you're either going to learn to earn money or you're going to learn to create everything to experience the life. You've got to learn where to get the water. You've got to learn where to get the water from. You've got to learn to get the water out of the ground. You've got to learn how to clean the water. Then you've got to learn how to heat your place, create heat, make a fire. You've got to learn everything. Your imagination will be stimulated for survival, and you're going to go two directions. Either you're going to go into nature or you're going to go into the economical world, right? Majority of people will not choose nature. And if they do choose it, you find them taking a ride into town, right? Looking for resources. And they still have to pay for it. So here, what is activating the imagination? What causes people to into the initiative and leadership of themselves and to go beyond where they're at? Desire for fulfillment. Desire for something outside of themselves. Desire to experience life. This desire that invokes us into action is actually limitless. Let's look at this word desire. What does desire stimulate? Consciousness. And what is consciousness? Consciousness is our imagination, is it not? So desire is causing consciousness to move into action. Well, there we go. Carlos, can you hear me? Thinking is actually imagining.
Yes, I hear you.
Carlos, what has caused you to move into action in Seattle?
What is cause?
Zach, can you put the
What do you
speaker
mean,
out in
like
here so we can hear?
money?
What is causing you to move into action in Seattle?
What is cause? Money.
Money. And what are you working on? How are you generating money?
I need a work.
Mm-hmm. So you started your own business? You started your own company?
Yes.
Generating services, right? So
Yes.
everything goes back to a need.
Yeah.
A need. A need for what? Something outside of ourselves. So then we start to think. And when we start to think, we go back to either what we know, we'll go to the prior memories to create reality, or we can go into the future and create something totally new. Now, I've been teaching this in two parts. One, physical reality, and then this movement that we call thinking. Subconscious mind is going to be the unconscious mind, which is memories from the past, but also in the subconscious mind is going to be universal intelligence. I'll put another box here. This box here is actually the largest box in the universe. It's actually universal intelligence. This universal intelligence is hooked up to the everything. A lot of people call that ether, the ether, infinite intelligence, Atma, just different names. But science has found that there is this etheric energy that all things are consistent in it. Everything that is a thing comes from this place. Everything that is a thing comes from here. Everything that is a thing came from here. When science began to research and study atoms and matter as we see it, the car, the vehicle, plastic, metal. The further deep they dived into it, they started to find smaller and smaller molecules. And then they started to find the atoms. And they kept digging, they find electrons, photons, protons, neutrons, and they kept digging. And as they keep digging, they end up going into this unified field. Now, how do I know that you're directly connected to that unified field? Where do your ideas come from? If they don't come from the past, where else could they be coming from? From the subconscious, which is hooked up to the unified field. You see, we're spiritual beings experiencing a physical reality, not the other way around. A lot of people saying, I want to be more spiritual. I just want to be more spiritual. I just want to be more. No, you were always spiritual. You're a spiritual being experiencing a physical reality. How do I know this? Scientists can measure the moment this energy leaves the body. The moment this energy leaves the body, it flatlines, and it disintegrates and it goes into nothing. If you were to watch a body after it dies, you would watch it actually begin to disappear. It's changing its state, it's vibrating, everything vibrates, nothing rests. And you will watch it actually begin to disappear. But scientists can actually measure the moment that energy leaves the body. Scientists also can measure when it enters the body, when it's born. Also, if a child is ever born, the child could be perfect. They have tested this so many times. The child body is perfect. But if that essence, that energy cannot connect to that brain, that little baby will be called stillborn. There was no energy in it. No energy was able to connect to the brain. So that spirit, that spiritual essence was not able to inherit an instrument, a body. The body immediately of a little child dies. If that essence cannot connect to the brain, to connect to the heart, and causes that baby to begin to awaken, quickening, they call it, the quickening, to become alive, immediately that little body disintegrates. Yeah. And if something happens in between birth and the time that you leave, we'll say 120 years of age. If anything happens to that brain or body, if anything happens to the brain, a major impact to the brain, and the brain cannot connect to its organs, what happens to the body? It dies. So the brain is very important, but the brain is not the mind. Remember? We said we can have a perfect body. And if that essence cannot connect to that brain, it dies. So this energy that we call mind, soul, spirit, is the thing that gives life to that brain and body. Without that energy, that body has no life or power. Without that energy, that body, this body has no life and no power. So the thing that's giving it life and power is the highest side of your personality, which is spiritual. Spirit, your spirit gives life and power to that brain, that body, that consciousness. And if that energy can no longer communicate to that brain, the brain cannot connect to its organs, and it's gone. Scientists can measure when it leaves. Why is this so important? To get a better understanding of the thing that's causing physical reality. So this energy called spirit begins to become entangled with past memories. And as it becomes entangled with past memories, it begins to, what we call, think. Earlier, Carlos from Seattle says, we've created our own company, and we're given services so that we can live, so we can experience life. So your soul, spirit, or consciousness uses ideas to see itself outside of itself. Let's look. The little child comes in from the power of what? The father and the mother. This power from the father and the mother comes in and creates you. Where did they get their information from? Where did they get their memories from? The same thing you did. You learned the child learns from its father and mother and the environment, or whoever raised it. But for sure, it had to get his DNA from a male and a female. So the DNA creates what? The way you look. That's why you look like previous family members, or the body looks like previous family members. Why? Because it came from the memory of those lifelines. And here comes the nucleus of you. And here we are born. And this is called a timeline. So here you're born, and you do the only thing that you can do. Your consciousness, it's perfect. That's why you see a little child, you're like, oh, he's so beautiful. They're so beautiful. You can tell, you can feel it. A child is so pure, and you can feel it. They're perfect. When we come in, we have no memories. But according to the family members we come into that environment and all of those ideas I drew out earlier. You come into all of these memories. And you do the only thing that you can do. You begin to act, walk, and talk like them. So here, pure spirit, pure light comes into this body, and it begins to become, we call it entrelazado, interlaced into the DNA strand. Right? Into the DNA strand. We become interlaced into the DNA strand. And we begin to pick up that information, and then we think. Look at the little child. The little child is so observant, just watching, listening, hearing everything. The minute it's born, eyes wide open. Maybe it cries. It's become aware. It just became aware that it is living in a physical reality. It just became aware that it's living in a body. But it still does not have all the memory yet to understand what is dad, mom. He's learning that on the way. In the months, that little child is learning what a father is, what a mother is, what an aunt, what an uncle. Why? How are they learning that? By recognition of the family that's training them. So as this child begins to download all this information, they begin to use that word called think. They begin to use that to think. Now, the average individual, when they begin to think, this is called the raison d'etre of the whole thing. If I say cat, dog, yellow dog, purple dog, orange dog, yellow dog, yellow, 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 yellow dog. How many times did you see a yellow dog? Even though you're trying to think back, well, it's not really yellow. How about purple? Purple dog, purple, 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 purple. How many times on the screen of your mind did I just flash a purple dog? Did that just not happen? Why? Because these up here are called the antennas. This is where we pick up information from the outside world. We can hear. Some of us are listening. When you're listening, you're emotionally involved. That's a higher frequency that stimulates the raison d'etre of the whole thing. And then every time you hear someone speaking and they were using the same words that you know, you drop down into your subconscious, and you go into the filing cabinet. This energy comes up, and bam, the image flashes on the screen of your mind. Can you see the dog right now? Yeah, you can see the dog right now. But is it in front of us? But you could see it. Purple dog, the purple dog. It is invisible. Isn't that amazing? It really is. Because even though I'm saying the word, you're seeing it drop down on the screen of your mind, not in physical form. We think in images. We actually think in images, and that's how we create reality. We think in images. Where did this first image come from? Correct, somebody's mind. So before this was even created, somebody had to have been going where? Into the unified field. If this was never, ever even born, they had to imagine it. Now let's take everything that is man-made. Let's take everything that is man-made, that we pay for. Everything that we pay for is man-made. And we pay for nature as well. It was free. Somebody just put a hole in it, and then you're paying for it at the store. They put the hole in nature. It was free. Ever-flowing water, but you pay for it. They're not making it. They made the first attempt and put the first things to draw it out of the ground, and then after that, it's free water. But you pay for it. Think about that. Now let's look at everything that's man-made. Where'd that come from? Everything outside of nature has been created by a higher consciousness. And right now, as we know it, or as far as they televise, humans are the only ones that can think outside of nature and tap into this field. Of infinite intelligence. It even opens. Look at that. It even has some little apparatus in here that you can plug them into your ear and hear the voice of somebody around the world. Isn't that amazing? Where in the hell did they get that idea from? Let's look at everything that's man-made. Let's go to the first chair. Where did that come from? There was no chairs. It had been tired and sick and tired of being sick and tired of laying on the ground, sitting on the ground, sitting on a rock. And they probably started to look around and look at their friends and say, man, nothing changes. Where's the water? We got to go, is there salt water? Where do we get clean water? They had to think, really think. They had to go beyond conditions and circumstances, and they had to tap into this field to get ideas. Why is this information so important? Why is it really understanding who I am? Because you will never take initiative beyond what you think is possible unless you're really being guided by a higher force. How many times have you had a vision and you kick it out and you say, nah? Yeah? Why have you kicked it out? Okay. So when you begin to think and you get a vision beyond what you know, that means you had an idea. The idea, what are ideas? Ideas is a desire to take you beyond current conditions and circumstances, right? If it's something beyond you, it is a desire that is lifting you to go beyond what you can hear, see, taste, touch, and smell. And also, the majority of the time, it takes you beyond your program. So when you begin to think, you drop into your what? Into your hard drive. You drop into your filing cabinet, and you say, is that possible? This happens so quick, you're not even aware. Your mind drops in and says, let's say you get an image from over here, X-type image, and it comes down, and it hits right here, comes onto the screen of the mind. And that image, it checks the box. It says 1 million. I don't know what it is. 1 million? You come and check in here, and they say, what the hell are you thinking? There's nothing in here like that. And what does it tell your dream to do? Get out of here. Who just told you to let go of your dream? The program. There's a program running on the background. A lot of people don't know that there's a program inside of you that one is telling you it cannot be done. Who do you think you are? That is this awareness. There's also a higher side of the personality that's always saying, you know you're more, you know you can achieve more. Who is that? You're going to say, myself. Right? Yeah. But one's a higher self, the other one's a lower self. One is tapped to a higher consciousness, one is tapped to a lower consciousness. See, when we look at this picture, we're looking at the brain. We look at the plastic brain, but this energy right here is what communicates to the brain, giving it ideas, or it takes ideas from its environment, much like the image. What is the mind? The mind is a movement. The mind is an energy. Consciousness is truly an energy, and it's always thinking. It never shuts off. When you go to bed, it still thinks, does it not? It'll think all night. It never turns off. So this energy is unseen, but is always in movement. But what is it moving? Majority of us will say, it's moving me. It's moving my ideas. Yeah, it is you, but it's not really you. It's everything you came into. You getting it? Because you came into these ideas, did you not? So is it really you? Or is it them? Is it the environment? Is it the district? Can you imagine if you would have been born in China, and I were to ask you, who are you? What would you tell me? Yeah, why? Because what? There you go, and that's all you know. And who told you that? There you go. And you just what? Accept. Isn't that amazing? You see, when I started to look around, I would walk around the streets, and I had this curiosity about me. I was a little bit different. I was not normal. I was never normal. I was never meant to be normal. I questioned everything. I was looking for answers. I wanted to know the truth. And because I wanted to know the truth, I wanted to know who I am. And when I started to I'm not my body. I am not this time. I'm not this place. I'm not even the things that they say. They're not even what they say they are. Who says you're Chinese or you're Puerto Rican or you're German? Somebody told them that idea, and then everybody else just repeats. Follow the leader. Think about every generation over all the hundreds of years that somebody told them what they are, and they just repeat it. Oh, we're brown, we're black, we're white. Who says that? We're told things by our environment, and we just follow the leader. Let's look at this image. Conscious mind, subconscious mind, the body. Why is this so important? You know, I've done a lot of research over the years, a lot. Because I wanted to improve myself. I have researched, and I've researched, and I've researched, and I've gone, and I've researched, and I keep researching, and to today, I still research. Because I know there's more. Dr. Thurman Fleet gave us this image back in 1934, and he began to to create an image so we can understand consciousness and what is it that creates us and causes us to do what we do. Conscious mind, thinking mind, educated mind, intellect, we choose, we accept, reject, originate. Subconscious, emotional mind, cannot reject, must accept, cannot determine the difference between what is real or imagined. And the truth is that your box was wide open from the ages of 0 all the way up to 8, they say. It is more prominent to programmings and in the 0 to 3 ages. So whatever is going on in that little baby at that age is what it is putting into its subconscious, and later on it closes, and it's hard to reprogram that subconscious after that. I remember going back to my children and I said, well, I've got some information. I know y'all watch me study all the time. And I told them, I said, one day you're going to need this. And they were laughing and giggling. Why am I going to need that? I said, you're going to need this information one day. The day you get as far as you know what to do, you're going to get stuck. One day you will get stuck. Everybody gets stuck. Everybody. I don't care who you are. Doesn't matter what planet you're on, what area of the planet you're on, which country you're in, what city you're in, everybody gets stuck. Because the minute you try to go beyond what you know, the average individual will not do it. Think about everything you stopped at. Think about everything that you have been able to push yourself to do. It's been work, hasn't it? Why? Because it's been beyond this. The average individual normally goes 15, maybe 20% beyond their family per generation. Per generation. Isn't that amazing? If you don't believe me, research. Go look at the family members. Go look. How many go 100% or go 1,000%? Not many. When I started to look, what is the percentage that actually goes over 300,000? You know how much what that percentage is? Huh? No. About a half. Yeah. In the world. Do you know how many people break 200,000? If you're in the 200,000, I believe you're in the 1%. And it doesn't. So that means everyone else around the planet is earning less. There's something wrong here. Would you not agree? There's got to be something to it. They say 3% earn what the 97% do. I don't say this. The studies show it. They've showed it for years, generations. The 3% always earn what the 97% do. The 97% of humanity pays the 3%. All the money and the wealth of the world normally belongs to the 3%. They say that they could take all the money away from the 3% that own the world, and they could give it to the 95 to 97%. In a matter of 6 to 9 months, this has been recorded, 6 to 9 months, that all the money would go back to the 3%. Why? Because they don't change their beliefs, their habits, and their behaviors. They didn't know they were programmed. Why was I researching this information? Did you know that I found that the people that actually go look for this information that I'm teaching right now are normally the ones that are earning 250 or above? The people that go and look for me. It takes them to get to there, to actually look for somebody that knows this information. And everybody else just stays doing what they do. Isn't that weird? For you to be here in front of me, you'd have to really be looking for it. You're in harmony with it, or you're wanting to go way beyond. The average individual that finds this information, or looks for a coach or consultant or a business consultant to look for this information about programming, about the mind, consciousness, neurofeedback, neurosciences, are the people that are normally earning above $250,000. Why is this so important? We're teaching about initiative and leadership. Where does initiative come from? Where does initiative come from to go beyond what you know? What is that thing that stimulates you to want to lead, or lead men or lead women? It's something that's causing you to want to go beyond, right? What creates initiative? Desire. Desire for what? What would you tell me created initiative? Why are you here? What created the initiative for you to be here? Okay. Yeah, it goes back to money. Yeah, to support that lifestyle. So something inside of you is demanding more out of life. Right? Something inside of you is actually demanding more out of you. Right? You see, a lot of people run when they get there, because they start to understand they have to change. And that's not normal. What's normal is to conform and go back to what you know, to settle. Initiative is something from within. Initiative is igniting something inside of you to want to go beyond. And this is why I say this is so important, about really understanding this information, understanding yourself, because the highest side of your personality is what? Spiritual. And that spiritual essence knows that it's more. I had something inside of me that kept telling me, you are more. You were meant for more. There's a purpose for you to be here. There's a reason for you to be here. And I kept searching, and I kept searching, and I kept searching. Well, what was that desire? What was that initiative? What was that thing that was igniting me? It was that spiritual entanglement of where we came from. How could you receive, where did Edison receive this idea to get a light bulb? The unified field. Something was causing him and igniting him to look up, to go beyond conditions and circumstances. The average individual will not look beyond what they can imagine. They imagine what they know. They imagine what this. That's why they keep getting the same results. You're here because you want to go beyond, you want to think beyond what you know. You want to learn beyond what you've been taught. When you go look right now, if you go look at the people that surround you, or the people even in your job or your business, or the people in your city block, go look. How many of them are actually going beyond what they know? Nobody I knew either. When we imagine and we use the memories from the past, we have to, by law, create more of what they had, or what they have, or what they have. Why was Edison or Marconi or all these men, what is this thing that they call a genius? A genius is somebody that is going beyond conditions and circumstances. Where did the Wright brothers get the idea to fly? Their father told them they would burn in hell. The father was an archbishop. He said, you're going to burn in hell for thinking you could fly. The average individual does not want to go condition and circumstances because they don't believe that they can create their own reality. What are these 3% doing? What are the 3 to 5% doing? They're being moved by initiative. And yes, it's true that if you have a family that has been programmed for success and they program their children 0 to 8 for success, the child will normally take off and skyrocket for success. But there's very few families that are born in that area. And that's why they say the rich get richer. Whatever you're programmed in, I found people that were earning middle class. And I would wonder, well, how did they get there? I'm a little kid sitting on the street. I remember they called these places the projects where the lower income people live. And we're living across the street, and I could see where they have these government complexes for the kids, and everybody's in poverty. And sitting there looking, and I remember being a child and always wondering, why am I living the way I'm living? Where is the initiative and where is the leadership in the people that cannot go beyond where they're at? Everybody is bracketed according to their family programming. So wherever you came in from, that's what we got. So here I would find people that are middle class, and I notice that their families were in middle class. As I'm growing up, I would notice that their families were middle class, and then I just noticed that they go off into the world. A lot of them like to read. I didn't like to read. Why did I not like to read? Well, 0 to 8, nobody read to me. So my 0 to 8, no program for reading. When it comes time to read, well, I don't want to do that. What the hell would I want to do that for? I have no cells of recognition. I don't want to do that. Now you understand the programming? If you have different brothers and sisters and they have different ages, whatever's happening at those different ages, whatever the family was going through, whatever they were thinking, that will be your initiative, and that will be your desire, and that will be your leadership. Hubbard said, what class do you come from? He knew that depending on the family and their programming and their habits, they're creating more of the same class. I thought I just didn't like reading. I was not programmed to read. I was 0 to 8, and just nobody sat down and read with me. It was after that. So here I'm going through time, and I'm experiencing my mind, my thinking, my reality. Where is the initiative that's drawing upon me to keep researching? There was something inside of me that kept telling me, no, you're more. This thing kept igniting me to take the initiative to lead myself to go beyond what I keep hearing people tell me. Something kept telling me inside, go inside, go inside, go inside. That bold desire that kept drawing me in, I kept feeling like I would go here, but I would say, no, it's not right. There's more. I kept going here. I said, no, that's not right. There's more. I kept tapping into this field. And it would bring me images. And it would bring me ideas. And then I would go research those images and those ideas. And as I would go research the images and the ideas that I was receiving from a higher source, I could go back into the dates of history and find it. I knew this was guiding me. I had symbols that I had in my imagination. I'd go back and research the symbols, and I would find them. What was it guiding me to? What was it showing me? What was it directing me to? Well, as I research and I go to the studies and I go to the old books and I'm researching, I'm finding out that there's more to us than we even know. And I began to reprogram my program. I began to reprogram these memories. I began to tap into and become more aware. I began to become more conscious. And I began to become aware that the majority of the people around me were not aware that they were not aware. They were not aware that they were programmed. They were not aware that as they think, they pick the images up from the past and then they move into action. They were not aware that as they think and feel, send a signal, and that tells them what to do. I remember taking initiative, and it was time for me to go earn money. And I go look for the hardest job, and I decided to go become a tire man. I went to go work. I wanted to be a tire man. And I can't remember what it was they offered me at that time. It was under $4 an hour. And I remember I took that on with pride. I went back, and I also remember 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old, 15 years old, 16 years old, chopping cotton. I remember getting up at 4 a.m. I remember 11 years old. I remember 5 or 6 years old, picking squash. So in my memory bank, when I go back to see what I should do to go earn money, what do I automatically go and do? I go look for the roughest, toughest job that I can find because that's a man's job. And I took the initiative, I took the flight, I left the coop, and I'm off into my own reality. Whose reality? Whose reality am I really injunctioning in? What am I really going into? I think I'm thinking. Isn't that amazing? I remember putting on my first set of boots. I'll never forget it. My father used to tell me, he said, if you don't get an education, you have to wear the boots of a laborer. He would tell me that all the time. If you don't want to get an education, you're going to wear the boots of a laborer. He told me that all the time growing up. And he thought he was doing good. And in a way, he was. So it's time for me to go earn money. I didn't want to go to school. So I went to go look for the job that would give me a pair of boots that I needed to wear, steel-toe boots. And I go off to the store and I go buy my first pair of boots and I'm putting them on and I'm getting ready for tomorrow. The next day I'm excited. I got a job and I'm getting my boots ready and I'm putting them on just to see how they feel. And I remember putting on the boots and I remember that my father's voice come into my head. If you don't want to get an education, you have to wear the boots of a laborer. And I remember putting them on. I'm hearing my dad speak to me. And I said, yeah, I guess he's right. Put them on. Initiative and leadership. Who are we leading? Who's leading us? A leader knows where they are going. I'm going to touch this in two different parts. The leader that's leading men and the initiative that's leading those men. And then I'm going to talk about the inner initiative and the leadership in you. Before we go into there, thank you guys that are live streaming. We went a little over. You guys have had a great opportunity to see what we're teaching and get a lot of value. If you don't know about this information, and if you're listening to it for the first time, go back and listen to it again. This is your whole life. And you need to work on you. Nobody else can change you. Nobody else will give you the life you desire. Send us a message. You want to learn more? You want to jump in this class? Send us a message. We got people in the back watching the monitors and screens. And thank you guys, and we'll